Hey, everybody. Sorry for being a couple minutes late. I had the wrong shirt on. Oh, dear. Anyway, hope everybody's doing well. It's Tuesday. Crypto market cap has fallen to $2 trillion. Yes, Rectember is happening a little bit. Miners getting smashed. We'll dig into that. We'll look at some of the underlying things that are happening, including some historically bad monster liquidations that you may not be aware of. Fear and greed is in the toilet again. Bitcoin is down under 58K again. And what else? Did I say fear and greed is 26? Well, it is. Let's jump in. We have about 50 nuggets to get through, and you will not find a more comprehensive view of the world. We're going to try find the signal in the noise, and there's lots of noise. We'll also look at sine waves and figure out what they are too. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to mods in the chat. Let's go. Not financial advice. And shout out to everybody on Patreon, the team behind me. This is from Piper up there in Canada. Patreon is amazing. Thank you so much, Piper, for all your support over the years too. We have a lot of ugly news and bad news too. Let's get into it. But some interesting news at the end too. The crypto market over the last 7 days in melting ice cubes terms. Horrible. Bitcoin down 7.8% since last Tuesday. ETH down 8.5%. Sol down more than 10%. Near down more than 10%. It's just a bloodbath. The only things escaping are Litecoin and Monero. Unusual. Normally, when the rest of the market's rallying, these assets go down. But it's kind of like a contra-indicator, which always interesting to track. Now, a little bit of bad news too. Every watch, if you play with anything like borrowing, etc., please watch your liquidation levels. Do not do it unless you put a liquidation level far out of reach. Let me explain exactly why. This is the second largest liquidation month ever. That is August 2024 I'm talking about, because we're brand new in September. I think it's the 3rd of September right now. But August was ugly. The total liquidations in on-chain lending markets on Ethereum reached $450 million. That's $500 million. Aave did 290 million of that. 66%, 2/3 was Aave liquidations. And this represents the second largest monthly on-chain lending market liquidation in history, behind 2021, which saw $671 million in liquidations. And that was an ugly time back in May 2021. Now, I hope you're not wondering what might have caused these abnormally high sums of on-chain lending liquidations, but the answer is painfully obvious. Okay? When everybody expects the market to do something, sometimes it does the opposite. And again, keep those liquidation levels super low. Let's get into the unlocks this week. A couple of big ones. LQTY. No idea what that is. Pendle is always there every week. I don't even know why I even talk about it. IMX, Takeo, Big Dump 2, Mode, HFT, Port, ENA, that thing will rain down tokens for the rest of the time, GMX, and XAI, all on the list. Be careful. And we have some news. Cardano. Charles Hoskinson is in the news. And he says the Chang hard fork changes everything. And it now has the power to dwarf Bitcoin. That was a little silent, pregnant pause there for a reason, ladies and gentlemen. Again, he says, what are his exact words? Hails Cardano's Chang fork as dwarfing Bitcoin. Okay. Let's have a look at some data. Let's look at the adoption of the Cardano network. And no offense to any Cardano bag holders here on the channel. We love and respect everybody. But in the last 3 years, Cardano has gone from over 500,000 daily active users to 24,000. This is what they call a ghost chain. Okay, a lot of hopes and dreams pinned to the Chang hard fork. But as I covered before, it's about governance. Governance doesn't drive adoption, ladies and gentlemen. A chain is not a chain with that few users. It's right down there with Flow and what's the other one? Multiverse, Elrond, whatever. You know, that's not how you want to play when you have another chain which will remain nameless, has 3.5 million daily active users. Anyhow, watch that. And watch when people say such things. You know, that hyperbole is always a red flag, ladies and gentlemen. No offense to Charles or Cardano, but dwarfing Bitcoin, don't think so. Anywho, let's talk about the stock market. Was still in the ugly news, by the way. We had some really ugly returns for Nvidia, down 14%. Google, 5.5% down. Meta down 1.4%. Apple down 2%. Microsoft down 1%. Amazon up just under 1%. Tesla basically down 0.5% or 0.6%. Again, tech has gotten hit hard, but retail is doing well. Walmart, Procter & Gamble, etc. The financials are doing well. And the energy is doing red because oil price is falling. And that's a quick view of the market. But we'll get into more of stuff as well. And I always sometimes, I love dogs, but I always have this old saying. It's very crude. I'm saying sometimes a dog with fleas will always be attracted to a dog with fleas. Or another old saying is misery loves company. So here, this is the week from Hallmark's catalog. Rivian and Volkswagen. Volkswagen is going to save Rivian. Woohoo! $5 billion investment. Also, Volkswagen is so broke, they want to shut down their own factories in Germany. You see what I mean? When you get companies that are desperate and they're stuck and they're out of options, they partner out of desperation. It happens time and time again in the marketplace. Maybe looking at shorting these two puppies. Anyhow, watch. Sometimes partnerships are extremely difficult to structure and they need to be perfectly balanced with both parties' benefit. But if both are desperate, one needs cash and the other one needs software, never a good match. Anywho, Intel, another ugly news too. Intel is not going to make it. Intel is considering selling its Altera chip unit, Reuters reported, as a broader review of restructuring options underway, and the company is really struggling. On Friday, Bloomberg reported that Intel was considering dividing its product design from its manufacturing operations. Da-da! That's what NVIDIA does. So, but they're not going to make it. If you look at the chart, I forgot to pull up the chart of Intel. Going back 25 years, you could have held that puppy for a quarter of a century and lost your ass. A $sign. I'll be talking more about a $sign in a little while as we get into the good news too. So, and other news too. And this is ugly, and this is probably like every government around the world as the population ages, as interest rates are high. But this is completely unsustainable. Interest now makes up 23% of the budget, and it's going to double. So if this budget was stagnant, interest rate would soon be making up 46% of the budget or even more. And government spending is estimated to grow from 7 trillion to nearly 10.5, 11 trillion in very short order. And 3 trillion of the 3.5 trillion increase will come from Social Security, which will soon be dwarfed by interest payments. Again, not sustainable. It's crazy. Money printers will go burr. And we are in that infinite death spiral, ladies and gentlemen. And then, speaking of more dystopian times, this is from Alex. It never occurred to me that VPNs would be banned in Brazil. It's dystopian, said Mauricio Santoro, a political science professor at the State University of Rio de Janeiro. And shout out to all our friends in Brazil. We have a lot of people down in Brazil watch this channel. And Julia Alves de Oliveira, an 18-year-old student, said that many young people like her no longer watch newscasts or read newspapers. Congratulations, because it's all lies anyway. But they rely solely on X, Twitter for their news. This is the young generation who are learning what truth is. Brazil will be a case study. They'll go down in a ball of flames. You can't prevent a population from having access to information. Censor speech, control free speech. It's just bad, okay? Truth, yes, it can hurt, but it's also necessary for a civilization to grow, in my humble opinion. Thank you as well, TNT Tesla and Sean Donnelly, for being here. Now, after all of that ugly news, we get into the bad news, which is a little bit better. Fear and greed still in the toilet, ladies and gentlemen. We're down around, 26? I think it is 26 per the chart. And it's been kind of flatlining, much like the Bitcoin price over the last couple of weeks. Like we were at 26 on the 5th of August, 2024. It's the 3rd of September. We're still at 26. It's gone nowhere. People are afraid. There's nothing but chatter. Everywhere you go, oh, Bitcoin. What are the odds it's not going to make 100 grand? That was a question I posed to DCA team yesterday. All three, Marty, CTO, and Mando, all believe will make 100K. But again, sometimes it's darkest before the dawn. We'll get into some Bitcoin charts in a second. Bitcoin season, we are still at 18. By the way, this is crazy. Last Tuesday, we were at 18 as well. Again, hasn't gone anywhere. Fear and greed hasn't gone anywhere. The old season indicator has not gone anywhere. And all seasons getting smashed. Let's look at how smashed. This is the last 90 days. If you're not in Tron and Aave, and look, it's kind of weird. Aave does record liquidations, nearly $400 million in August. And then the token pumps. But the people that used it got slaughtered. You can't make this up. It's just data. And the two X's are there. Monero and XRP up there in the top 5 performers over the last 90 days. Bitcoin down 20%, Litecoin down 24%, Solana down 25% for the last 3 months, Binance down even more, down 30%, and Arbitrum down over 56%. It has been a nasty summer, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes people get depressed going into the fall or winter because the weather changes. There can be rain and snow and the leaves turn brown and it gets windy and wet. But it's better for the markets. So that's good news. Let's look at money flows. Money flows down. Digital asset investment products saw outflows totaling minus 305 million last week, with widespread negative sentiment across all asset providers in all regions. But there is a bright spot we'll get to in a minute. Also, ETFs. I track the ETFs. Shout out to HODL 15 Capital. Put this beautiful chart together so I didn't have to create one. These are the months since the ETF happened and the amount of Bitcoin bought and sold. January, 34,000. Feb, 117,000. By the way, I round up in case you're questioning my ability to read numbers. March, 65K. April, minus 6,000. We had one negative month for the ETFs so far in the last 8 months. May, 30,000. June, 9,000. July, 51,000. And August, crumbs, I think it's about 2,000 Bitcoin. So the point is, April sucked. August was better, but sucked less. And it's the second worst month so far of the history. But we take away a little concession. At least it was positive, which is good news. Now, some on-chain TA stuff. This is an interesting one. This is trading volume futures versus spot. Shout out to Axel Adler as well for the great chart that comes from CryptoQuant. Now, trading volume on futures is almost 3 to 5 times greater than spot. Therefore, price movement depends more on futures than on spot. But the latter must be considered since it all comes down to the coins, not paper money. Now, to break this down, a lot of people are concerned, oh my God, it's turning out to be like gold where 100x times the actual spot volume is traded with paper. Gold, i.e. futures. The question is, again, if futures trading volume is typically 3 to 5 times higher than spot trading volume, that means that for every trade happening in the spot market, there are 3 to 5 trades occurring in the futures market. While futures trading has a big impact on price due to its higher volume, the spot market still is crucial because it does represent the actual cryptocurrency changing hands. And both markets are interconnected and important to consider when analyzing cryptocurrency prices. But when I look at this chart here, the takeaway that I get is 1, spot volume sucks. 2, futures volume is growing. They will converge again. Okay, it's just a question of time. And part of the reason why spot volume is not there is because of the summer doldrums that we've been talking about for the last 2 months. So here we are. We're getting into winter, fall. Bring on the rain, bring on the leaves, the storms, the snow, whatever. Now, other bad news. I wouldn't call this ugly news because it's bad, because from our top and bottom indicator, hash rate just hit a new all-time high, ladies and gentlemen. There's over 700 million hash, petahash. I forget the denominator on this right now. But the point is, the network's more secure. That's the good news. But the bad news is it makes it much harder for miners to make good money. And because there's not a lot of volume, there's not a lot of fees, not a lot of activity on chain, and the miners are getting hit hard. Let's have another view of how you can interpret that. These are miner fees over the last year. And we're hitting a 1-year low, everybody. Bitcoin miner revenue hit a 1-year low in August. And they're probably going to continue to get murdered in September. And we saw them getting murdered right now. If you look at the miner performance all across the board, many of them all down 10% or more today. And that's after a wickedly bad August as well. So I always say, Bitcoin miners, cutthroat business. Be careful playing the miners. There's a team, shout out to the beautiful team behind, that puts all these videos into newsletters, all the slides. You can listen to podcasts. Again, we go so fast here, you might miss some stuff, but 10 cents a day if you're interested in that. There'll be a link above here. Now, at last, the good news. There is good news. So shout out to CryptoCon, put this beautiful chart together. And I like it because I love the simplest charts are always the best charts. But this is what they call Bitcoin Seasons. Now, if you go back in history and you look at the summers, so the summers are the little pink box with the sun over it. And that's typically between the 21st of June and the 22nd of September. So technically, we're still in summer. But for these seasonal boxes, normally, summers can sometimes be good, but more often than not, not so much. And prices struggled more summers than not, with only 3 of 14 summers over the past 14 years boasting new highs, new all-time highs. August and September take the cake as being the worst performing months of the year. But, as I believe, potentially, we have a little slightly left-shifted cycle. Will September will be nasty. And some people kind of get confused. This is the danger if you look at monthly candles, because it doesn't represent, well, it does if you look at it carefully, but it doesn't represent where you start and where you finish. So what typically can happen in September is you can open okay, and in the middle of September tank, and then a V-shaped recovery towards the end. I think we could have something like that out there in the market. This will capture the seasonality. And the point of this whole chart is when you look at what happens after the little sunshine pink, you go into the fall, as I mentioned, the brown leaves, September 23rd to December 20th, I think. Hey, Rusty Woods, thank you for coming. Then we go up more often than not. Bitcoin loves the fall. We'll see if it's seasonal. And there's another indicator of this. Let's call this the blue zone. This is Bitcoin sine waves. And people will say, what's a sine wave? Well, it's a smooth shaped curve that oscillates above and below a center line. Real simple. And it's a mathematical function, y equals sine x, for those who remember that in math class. But it's characterized by the amplitude, which is the height of the wave, and the frequency, how often the wave repeats. And in Bitcoin, it is the most beautiful, repetitive cycle. So when we apply, well, actually, CryptoCon, when they applied the sine wave to Bitcoin halving cycles theory, the sine wave indicator determines if the market is trending or in a cyclical mode, and it can be used to identify potential short-term buying or selling opportunities. And traders sometimes use these to spot overbought or oversold conditions, depending on where we are on the sine wave. Now, more importantly, if you look at the key boxes here, so you look at the blue arrows, which are August 2012, August 2016, August 2020, and now we're in August 2024, you will see very carefully that these typically are sucky times. We're going into September, which can also continue the dip, but then we go into the red boxes, and that takes us to the red year. Red, to me, is a danger color, but basically the blue arrows focus on the blue zone. The blue zone and the sine wave is not for selling. The red dot, the red year, the red box is for selling. We are not in the red box, everybody. We're in the blue zone. So capitulating here is not smart. Now, this also assumes history repeats, which It does normally, at least it rhymes at the very least. So we'll watch this carefully. I'm still optimistic based on history of what could happen now. We were caught out a little bit this time around because we hit an all-time high before the halving, which was driven by the ETFs. And now things have slowed down, as we showed with the ETF charts here. But I do expect them to ramp up again, especially as you got Morgan Stanley with 15,000 salespeople pumping Bitcoin, and money will come in. People will come back from vacation, put money to work, interest rates will be cut, and people will be looking for alpha. And I do believe you're going to get some alpha in Bitcoin in this fall. I should have called it the full pump instead of sine waves. Anyway, they are the sine waves. Remember, real simple. We're in the blue zone. Don't sell here. Sell in the red box. Clear? Hope so. If you want me to dig into that more, let me know. We also have another Q4 catalyst. Shout out to Marty Party, friend of the channel and DCA member. FTX news, $16 billion will be returned to creditors starting in Q4 2024. And you know what they're going to do this quarter with that money? They're going to buy crypto. I mean, take the little fiat, and they're going to go right back into crypto. What they buy, we don't know. It will be a combination of Bitcoin and some alts. Either way, it's going to be a good time. That is going to be one hell of a tailwind going into Q4. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Because then, well, I doubt they're like me and they'd be buying other stuff. But anyway, we're going to watch this carefully. Also, funding rates. Another bullish sign. I did warn you at the beginning, some bearish, ugly looking stuff. But balance it out with some good looking stuff too. These are the funding rates. And they are technically in what's called the neutral bull zone at plus 0.0005%. If you look at history and you look at what happens to the Bitcoin price after the Bitcoin price is the big thick black line, by the way, after the funding rates tank, the price goes up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in that zone, and I think it's the Binance funding rate. Again, it's in the bull zone. So again, if history repeats, we go up from here. So watch that carefully. And if while you were sleeping, while people were scared, Mr. 100 keeps on snacking. The buying, I think, 700 Bitcoin in the last 48 hours. They have not bought today, but they do buy now. Every time it's around 58,000 or a little lower. Half of these buys are at the 57K level. So they keep snacking. Their DCA strategy has gotten really, really good over the past 2 or 3 months. They only buy super cheap. And Solana bucks the trend back to the money flow. Half of the money flow is negative. Everything was negative. And despite that very challenging week for digital assets with over 305 million of outflows, Bitcoin 319, Ethereum 5.7 million out, Solana defied the trend, attracting 7.6 million of inflows. And so, and by the way, number 2 was short Bitcoin, 4.4 million. So people are kind of YOLOing into Solana, going against the grain of everything else. Why? Well, again, history. We'll see if it rhymes or not. Will it repeat? And shout out to Cozy the Caller. And these are the breakpoint stats. And historically, before the Solana annual conference, breakpoint, in 2021, there was a 68% move running up to the conference, and the move began 19 days before the conference. In 2022, 42% move. The move began 16 days before the conference. 2023, 66% move, and the move began 8 days before the conference. The average is a 58.6% move, about 14 days, 2 weeks before the conference. We are 16 days away, and it's so funny because I said this last week. I predicted Solana will rally into the conference because historically it's done that. If this time is different, it'll be an anomaly, but we'll see. And another fun news too regarding Solana and validators. This shows you how much the chain has actually drastically changed in 2024. And it's all driven by DeFi activities. So in early Jan, 95% of the validator revenue is made from issuance. And in 29th of July, only 78% was from issuance. 15.3% was from MEV and 6.5% from fees versus 1.9% from MEV at the beginning of the year and 3.1% from fees. This is all driven by the crazy action on DEXs. That's how it works. And DePIN, as I covered in this morning's video, is still the hardest sector so far for the month, which we cover every week here on OCTA. And NFT is number 2. And what's that? Bridging number 3. And you can see over the last 30 days, Ethereum is down 5.5%. And Bitcoin over the last 30 days, down only 2.2%. Doesn't it feel a lot worse? Yes, it does. But no, when you zoom out, it's like we're back to where we were 30 days ago for Bitcoin. So nothing too big. And switching gears to a little bit of Tesla news and AI news, because this is so important. There's some good stuff happening here. First of all, shout out to everybody in Scandinavia. Between China is now over 50% BEVs. Norway is over 95%. And soon it'll be 100% adoption. In fact, ICE car makers have just pulled out of the market altogether. But you can see here what's important is the Tesla Model 3 and the Tesla Model Y are dominating, and Model 3 is ramping up in Norway big time. And soon, Norway, country of the future, will show the way to the rest of the world as well. And it's just an inevitable thing happening. And believe it or not, this is so bizarre. There's a little bit of kind ink from CNBS. Some rogue writer wrote something very interesting. He talked about how Cybertruck has created a category unto itself because the car is so advanced, so futuristic, the technology in it, the architecture, 48-volt system, four-wheel steering, steer-by-wire, etc. He said it's like the Ford Ranchero and the Chevrolet El Camino. Before it, they created a whole new segment in the automotive industry, top-selling electric truck on the planet, top-selling vehicle on the planet, over $100,000. And yeah, it's different. We'll get into more stuff in a second. There's a new thing called ASS, which is coming from Tesla. And Sawyer Merritt broke this. After years of waiting, Tesla has officially announced Actual Smart Summon, ASS, as its next generation Smart Summon feature to owners. Buckle up. Now, this also means not only will it come and get you, but with more tech and less hand waving, but you can also banish it probably too. And Elon Musk says Smart Summon is fire. This is key for robotaxis. Basically, the car can go to a point and then go to another point and park itself or pick somebody else up or whatever. And as usual, Tesla always make fun of acronyms like S3XY. You all know, drop a comment if you know what that says. And ASS. It's entertaining. And shout out to Hyundai too. They are now part of the Tesla gas station network called Superchargers. The Hyundai's Ioniq 5, the 2025 version, now has a NACS port, which is the Tesla standard. They call it the North American Charging Standard. And it can plug into any Tesla supercharger, no adapters. And this is good. As I always say in life, embrace or die. If you fight disruption, like the Rivians and Volkswagens, you're not going to end up well. And let's talk about AI for a second, because a very profound thing was said by, I forget his name, the CEO of Google. He said the risk of underinvesting in AI is higher than the risk of overinvesting. And Google, their CapEx increase over the last year is up to 64%. Amazon up 41%. Microsoft 40%. Meta 23%. These companies are dropping coin, hand over fist, to invest in AI, i.e. buy a whole bunch of H100s and H200s. But guess what? This is kind of crazy. XAI, which is a brand new company, less than a year old, have already just completed building the largest AI cluster in only 122 days. And this is the most powerful AI cluster with over 100,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs, which again was built in 122 days. They've also built their own standard for network connections. It's like whatever the standard is called. That's called Tesla TCP or something. I don't know. It is a new networking standard where they can push an incredible amount of speed, multiple times of what used to be a gigabit switch. They built their own standard because nothing was fast enough. When you have 100,000 monstrous boxes working at the same time, sharing information at the same time, sharing power at the same time. You have to overcome a lot of technical difficulty. Somehow these guys figured out how to do it in 122 days. And as Elon says, not only that, they're going to double it again in a few more months. That 100,000 H100s will go to 200,000. And just like the CEO of Google said, you cannot risk not investing. The risk of underinvesting is far greater than the risk of overinvesting. And this Colossus is the most powerful AI training system in the world. And again, all roads lead to you know what. And speaking of AI and the importance of AI and how some AI is completely weighted in a very perverse way, Amazon have decided to use Anthropic AI for the new version of Alexa. I have tried Anthropic. I found it to be complete garbage. Terrible, because it doesn't tell you the frickin' truth. And now, this is it's a little post from earlier. Big tech is woke AF. Do not trust it. This is a great video. Go to Benny Johnson on Twitter and listen to this thing. This is insane. The AI from Alexa will lie to you, okay? It will lie to you. Do you like to be lied to? Amazon, fix it. And by the way, going with Anthropic is not going to fix it. It's going to be just as bad. Maybe that's why they chose. So it's just shocking, all the stuff that's out there. But remember, sorry for being on the soapbox. We like truth here in this station. Never fade Elon Musk. From obscurity, he has already built the most powerful AI cluster in the world, which is going to be twice as powerful in a few months. Nobody will be able to catch the advantage that they have. Thank you all for coming. Hope you enjoyed OCTA. We try to cover all the stuff that's important to your lives. AI, tech, crypto, disruption. Be on the train. We'll get through the storm. A lot of good signs, a lot of crappy signs. The bear is back, but as hopefully the storm will be over by the middle of September. Thank you to mods in chat, KH, Sean Donnelly. See you, Des in Namibia. Yesterday, somebody said, how come you never say hello to us in Africa? I always say hello to Des in Namibia, and we have a whole bunch of people in South Africa too. Thank you all for coming, everybody. And Anthropic is a waste paper basket from Tiago Cyprian. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for making me laugh. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.